Most people know that to build stronger and bigger muscles, they need to lift through a full range of motion, using challenging loads, and progressively overload over time. But for some reason, when it comes to training the abs and core, you see most people use shortened ranges of motion, using little to no loads at all, and often focus more on the burn rather than actually progressively overloading over time. Now, moves like planks and crunches and sit-ups are important, but once you gain proficiency with them, you need to start training like an athlete and treating your abs and core like any other muscle group. That's why in today's video, I'm gonna share with you my top 5 core and ab exercises to train like an athlete using moves that utilize full ranges of motion, using challenging loads, and that can be progressively overloaded over time. Let's get started. All right, the first exercise is gonna be the hanging knee raise. All right, now the hanging knee raise is going to be a flexion-based exercise, meaning we're trying to crunch over as much as possible to utilize the abs. Now, you've probably seen tons of different hanging knee raise variations before, whether it's hanging off a pull-up bar or using a Roman chair or maybe off a dip bar as well. But I really like using these ab straps where you can put your upper arms through and anchor yourself into place, because I feel like it's a really nice way to just lock yourself in and go through the range of motion without necessarily getting too tired with your grip if you're hanging off a pull-up bar, or too tired with your shoulders and triceps if you're off your dip bar. I feel like this is a really nice way to really engage the abs, really focus on them. All right, so this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna slide your arms through like so, and just anchor yourself into place, okay? You don't wanna be back here, you wanna make sure that you fully get it close to your body. And then from here, I'm gonna grab on tight like this and just get into a dead hang position with the feet. Now from here, you're gonna bring your knees all the way up towards your elbows and then bring it back down, okay? All the way up and bring it back down. Let me show you a couple more. And one thing at the bottom that I like to do is get into a bit of an arched position to stretch the abs and get a little bit more range of motion, and then I slowly bring it back up. I don't wanna get into a position where I arch and then use that momentum to pull myself up. I'm trying to think about one vertebrae at a time, curling, getting my knees to touch my elbows before slowly unraveling back and getting that full extension at that bottom position. This gets full range of motion, this gets the abs contracting, and it's a great exercise to progressively overload over time. All right, now speaking of progressive overload, if you wanna make this exercise even more challenging, you wanna add more weight to it, you can use a dumbbell between the knees or maybe a kettlebell around your foot. But my favorite way to load up this movement is by using a medicine ball, particularly one of these like soft leather medicine balls because they stick to your legs better. But basically, you wanna get the ball and bring it between your knees. And then from there, you're gonna squeeze the ball tightly with your knees to keep a good grip on it, all right? So from there, you'll get in this position, and all the same rules apply. Just because you have a weight doesn't mean that you speed up the movement or you extend too far. Just make sure that you're following the same exact rules that I outlined before. I'm gonna be here, dead hang, squeezing the ball tight, and then I slowly curl my way up, and then I bring it back down. I get a little bit of extension at the bottom before curling myself back up. And again, you're getting full range of motion, you're getting a challenging load, you're progressively overloading over time, and it's a great way to strengthen the abs using a flexion-based pattern, and I like 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps. Ab and core exercise number 2 is going to be the landmine anti-rotation. All right, so this move is what we call an anti-rotation movement. So you're trying to keep your trunk still while you're moving your arms. And the bar is trying to rotate and pivot you, but you're doing your best to try to stay square and anti-rotate. All right, so this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna grab onto a bar, an angled barbell setup like this. You're gonna press yourself up like so. So you're in this position where your arms are slightly bent and the bar is out in front of you. Now from here, you're doing your best to get a good stable base, slight bend in the knees, and then you're gonna slowly lower the weight off to one side. I like to think around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, somewhere around there. And then from there, while staying square, I bring the bar all the way over to about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then bring it back. And as you can tell from my voice, I'm straining really hard because I'm trying to stay square as the bar is trying to make me do something like this. I'm trying to stay square, stay tight, and my obliques are working really hard to maintain this position. All right. Now, I love exercises like pull-off presses or band chops and things like that, but this is a great one because unlike a pull-off press where you're stabilizing anti-rotation like this, you're getting a huge amount of range of motion. So you're getting a lot more different positions, you're exposed to different angles and positions. So it just feels tremendously challenging. So you're getting greater range of motion, and like I'll talk about later, you're able to progressively overload it over time. Now, there are a number of different ways to progressively overload the Landmine anti-rotation. Obviously, you can use weight, and I'd recommend going up in change plates. So 2.5, 5 pounds, a little goes a long way. So don't feel like you have to make 10 to 20 pound adjustments there. Now, the other thing that you can do is just go at a slower pace. So you can control the eccentric a little bit longer, or you can add more reps. So there's a number of different ways to progressively overload the movement, but for this exercise, I like 3 sets of around 6 to 8 reps as well. All right, exercise number 3 is going to be the barbell rollout. All right, now the barbell rollout is an example of an anti-extension exercise, meaning that we're trying to lock our trunk in place while the movement is trying to get us to arch and extend our lower backs. We're trying to stay locked in place as we're going through the movement. All right, so this is how you go through it. If you've seen a stability ball rollout or an ab wheel, this is basically like that, except on steroids because we're adding a lot more load to the equation and you need a lot more upper body strength. All right, so what you're gonna do is get set up with your arms, let's say a little bit outside shoulder width. And then from here, the first thing that I want you to do is try to get your hips forward right here. All right, so now I'm trying to think about a line from my knees all the way to the crown of my head. And I'm doing my best to not have my butt stick out in the air. I'm trying to tuck my pelvis under, squeeze my glutes, squeeze my abs, so I'm in this nice neutral position. And then from there, I want to maintain and lock that in as I go down for the movement, okay? So you can go as far as you'd like, but do your best to maintain that position. So you can go shallow at first and then pull back. You can go a little bit further and then pull back, and then finally you can go with more of a full range of motion before pulling yourself back. Now, obviously at that bottom position, your arms are really extended out. You need to be able to use your lats to be able to pull yourself back in. This is a great exercise because you get full range of motion. You're able to challenge yourself significantly, and the bar enables you and allows you to use progressive overload over time. Now, to progressively overload, some might think that you would add weight to the bar, but actually adding a lot more weight to the bar doesn't necessarily change the bar too much because you're just rolling it back and forth. What I like to do instead is actually put a band, a resistance band around the bar, fixated on a sturdy object like a squat rack, and then from there, get into position. And what's happening is, as right from the start, the band is really trying to pull me out that way, and my lats and my core really have to lock into place in order to get into the starting position. And then from here, it's pulling me forward, and I have to sort of control that resistance there, that pull, and then on the way back in, I'm pulling against the band, and almost ends up becoming a ab wheel rollout mixed in with a lat pullover. And the effect is extremely considerable on the core. Let me do it again. Show you one more time. So if you want to progress the movement, we'd like to recommend a band. A thin band, a small band goes a long way, so don't feel like you have to use an 1 or 2 inch resistance band. And if you want to make it a little bit more challenging, you can go further and further away from the sturdy object and you'll get a ton of resistance. Now for this exercise, I like 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps again. Exercise number 4 is going to be the kneeling horizontal chop. The kneeling horizontal chop is an example of a rotational based exercise. A few exercises before, we talked about the Landmine anti-rotation, where the goal is to stay square at the trunk as the bar is trying to rotate you. For this exercise, we actually want to rotate the trunk. Now, there are different variations of horizontal chops out there. There's one where you go and you actually pivot the back foot and you're getting a lot of hip rotation. And I like that move as just sort of a total body movement to get hip and core rotating at the same time. It's a great sort of coordination challenge. But for this movement, we want to isolate everything and just focus on the trunk rotating in order to get the most amount of load on your core. All right, so for this one, you're going to get into a kneeling position, and I like a squat rack because it automatically has something to push your foot up against, and this offers a lot of stability. From here, you're going to get a band that's around belly button height or so, okay? So not too tall, not too low. And then from there, you're going to get the band out like so, and you're going to rotate off to the side before slowly bringing it back. So I'm here, I rotate, and then I bring it back. All right, so what you'll notice here is this leg is anchored up off to the side like this. So I don't want to be in this position. There are certain exercises where you want to be in more of a true half kneeling posture, and that's going to be more of a stability, balance requirement. For this, we want to get our foot anchored so we have maximal stability down low while we go through the movement, which allows us to use greater force and greater resistance with the band. And as I'm going through this, I'm thinking about tension on my obliques during the concentric when I rotate. And then same thing here. I don't want to just relax and let the band pull me back. I'm thinking about my obliques resisting as I'm going. And that way I get full range of motion. I'm getting a lot of challenge to my system, and I'm able to progressively overload using greater band thicknesses. Now, to progressively overload, you can use a thicker band, but sometimes you might be in between band sizes because band sizes range from 1/4 inch jumps to 1/2 inch jumps, and it might be too big of a jump for you initially. In that case, all you need to do is just scoot a little bit further away. So maybe you can scoot like 1 inch or 2 away and then go through the movement. Now, you don't want to be in a position where you're all the way out here and then you're trying to anchor yourself like this, or if you don't even have a squat rack and you're trying to anchor yourself on a pole, this just might not work out. In that case, I would recommend having a dumbbell or a heavy kettlebell here where you rest your foot up against so that you can still maintain this position as you go through the movement. So don't feel like you have to be reaching all the way out here just to stabilize yourself. Get something to anchor yourself with, maybe even a bench, and go from there, and then you can progressively overload to your heart's desire. All right, my 5th and final exercise for the abs and core is going to be the bench GHD Sit Up. Now, some of you might know what a GHD sit-up is, which is basically a sit-up, an extended sit-up off a glute hand developer machine. But most people won't have access to something like that unless they work out at a CrossFit setting or something like that. So I'm gonna show you an alternative using a bench where it gets a similar effect. All right, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna be next to a bench here. So you're gonna be perpendicular to the bench, and you're gonna rest yourself on the bench like so. All right, now from here, you're gonna anchor your feet down, and you're gonna get your hands behind your head. And from here, you're gonna extend back as far as you can, getting a good stretch throughout your abs, and then you're gonna crunch yourself up. All the way down, get a good stretch, and then crunch yourself up. And now if that feels easy, you can go arms straight overhead. Now the GHD sit-up is going to be an example of a flexion-based exercise. And we started off this video with a flexion-based exercise with the hanging knee raise, but that's where we're trying to get our knees up to our pelvis, whereas this exercise, we're trying to get our trunk crunched down. So it's gonna be more of a top-down movement, whereas the knee raise is more of a bottom half movement, all right? So it's gonna be slightly targeting different areas. And for this one, again, just make sure you're getting a really good stretch and then slowly coming up, getting a good contraction before lowering back down. And I'll talk to you about progressive overload right after this. Now to progressively overload, the easiest thing to do is add a weight, all right? So something light, like a 5-pound weight or a 10-pound weight, you're gonna get set up in the same position and start off with the weight behind your head like this. And automatically right here, it's automatically trying to pull me this way, and I'm really fighting hard to maintain this hollow position. But once I'm ready, I'm gonna come down, get a good stretch on my abs. So I'm using full range of motion, and then using my abs here, I pull myself up, contract hard, before coming back down. So that's plenty hard as it is, But if I want to mimic the true GHD position, I'm gonna go fully arms overhead. So right here, I'm getting a lot of lats already. I'm getting a lot of core just by maintaining this hollow hold position. I extend, and then I pull myself up. And for this move, I like 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, so higher rep ranges for this. You can even go up towards the 15 rep range. You are going to notice a tremendous amount of contraction throughout your core as you go through this because it's gonna be under constant tension. Unlike a crunch or a sit-up where you go down and gravity's assisting you, if you let gravity assist you, you're just gonna completely buckle the other way. So you wanna make sure that you have some level of tension throughout the entire movement, and it's gonna feel a ton of eccentric stress on the way down, a ton of concentric contraction on the way up, and it's just a great way to progressively overload over time. And there you have it, 5 ab and core exercises that challenge you through a full range of motion, utilize significant loads, incorporate progressive overload, and help build real strength so that you can train like an athlete. Feel free to include 1 or more of these exercises into your routine, and I promise you that you'll feel the difference in no time. And if you're ready to level up your overall training with a structured, flexible program, check out Rise. Delivered through our app, Rise gives you a fresh program every 4 weeks, complete with modifications for every movement, detailed sets and reps, video demonstrations, and guidance on how to progress. Plus, you can log your progress as you go to track your results. Use the code YTRISE50 for 50% off, and click the link in the description box below to learn more. Finally, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this, and let us know in the comment section below what content you'd like to see from us in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.